Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. I'm Benji Messer, the music director. I use he, him pronouns. Today's service is about responding to big challenges with love. And we start with an African-American spiritual that reassures us that even when life has been cruel, there is more love somewhere. Please rise in body or spirit, and let's sing together. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. And more peace. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. And there's happiness. And there is happiness somewhere. There is happiness somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is happiness somewhere. And there is more joy. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere. And there is more love. Please remain standing for our chalice lighting, everyone. Beautiful singing.
Good morning. I'm Oliver. My pronouns are he, him, diva, and I am your worship associate today. Join me as we recite our covenant, and Jonathan Lawson, my best friend, lights our chalice. If you're watching remotely and have a chalice with you, please light it with us. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to share our strength in fellowship, thus do we covenant. Please be seated. Again, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. We strive to be a spiritual community for our time, one that is theologically diverse, radically inclusive, and justice-centered. Our doors swing wide open to embrace all who seek a welcoming place. May our worship today be a source of inspiration, a comfort in challenging times, and a call to action. If you're new here, we're so glad that you found us. I do have one announcement to make. Actually, don't we have two announcements? Right, one? Okay, later, okay. So the General Assembly, the annual meeting of Unitarian Universalists from around the world, is June 18th through the 22nd. Would you like to attend would you like to attend in person or online and represent UUCP? It's a wonderful way to learn about and participate in Unitarian Universalism beyond our congregation. Both youth and adults can be delegates. Please talk to Shelley Stevenson for all the details. Our minister, Reverend Christine Dance, is on sabbatical until the end of July. During her sabbatical, we're hosting many guest preachers, and today we are thrilled that Reverend Sunshine Wolfe is joining us in the pulpit today. Reverend Sunshine Wolfe is regional lead of the Pacific Western region based in Phoenix, Arizona. They hail originally from Indiana, where they learned to sing, dance, and cause trouble, the social justice kind, of course. Reverend Wolfe, welcome to UUCP, and thank you for being a part of this radical sabbatical. Would you please open our service?
Slight height difference. Good morning, all y'all. My name is Reverend Sunshine Jeremiah Wolfe. I offer visual descriptions for folks who have sight things. So I am a short, fat, multiracial, white-presenting human with short brown hair, a salt and pepper beard. I'm wearing a mint green and gray mask and a purple-ish button-down shirt and a stole that has rainbow colors quilted in it. I offer my greetings and blessings to you. It is good to be back in this church. I used to sleep on the floor here every once in a while at youth conferences in the early 2000s. So it's been about 21 years since I've been here, and it's good to see it. I was commenting that the sculpture outside was actually still brown and not the teal color that it is now when I was visiting. I serve as Pacific Western Regional Lead of the Unitarian Universalist Association. That means I am the supervisor for all of the staff who serve this congregation at the National UUA, including Tanya Marquez, Reverend Tanya Marquez, who is your primary contact. And so we're available to you if you have questions or concerns or challenges. We meet with your congregation's leadership on the regular. And I actually wanted to share an opening from Reverend Tanya. It is both in English and in Spanish, and I'll read both. It's called Witnesses of the World, Testigos del Mundo. It is now when we are called as witnesses of the world to mend it, to change its course, to restore it. It is now when we are called to act on our values, not to hide, not to fear, but to be bold and loud. Right? It is now that we are called to continue our fight for justice, to organize, to speak up. It is now. Let us gather. Let us give each other courage. Let us worship. Es ahora que estamos llamados a ser testigos del mundo, a enmendarlo, a cambiar su curso, a restaurar. Es ahora que somos llamados a vivir nuestros valores, a nos escondemos, a no tener, sino a ser audaces y a hacer ruido. Es hora que somos llamados a continuar nuestra lucha por la justicia. A organizarnos a levantar las voces. Es ahora reunámonos, démonos valor unos a otros. Celebramos.
Before I begin my reflection, I'd like to acknowledge our whole community. If you're on Zoom, please turn on your camera so that we can see you. Everyone here, let's notice the folks who are watching services live on Zoom. Hello, everyone. Hi. We're glad that you guys could be here. All right. So when I was younger, I believed that changing the world meant doing something extraordinary. I thought you had to be someone history books would remember, since I am a social studies teacher. I thought like a great orator like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., or a poet whose words stretched across centuries like Shakespeare. Or honestly, just someone who's living loud enough to crash the pop culture radar like Britney Spears, Paris Hilton, and Lindsay Lohan in circa 2006. I thought changing the world meant being larger than life, but life and community have taught me something gentler and maybe truer. The world doesn't always ask us for greatness. It asks us for presence and for sincerity, for the courage to show up with what we have, even when it feels small. There was a time when I stood under the desert stars barefoot in the river sand, whispering small prayers into the vastness. That world felt endless and mysterious then, and it still does today. Today, I'm not always sure whether the universe listens to me, but I do know that we do, and that we listen to each other. We reach out and we hold one another up, and we keep moving forward hand in hand. I have seen how a song can soften fear, how a simple kindness, a word or gesture or a steady presence can ripple farther than we can ever expect. Offering what we can is not a small act, it's a sacred work of being alive. As we begin this morning's service, I invite you to reflect on the gifts that you carry. Maybe they are songs or stories or just a quiet courage. Maybe they are moments of patience or laughter shared or simply being willing to care. Whatever you have to offer, it's needed. The world needs you. And if, like me, the most consistent spiritual practice lately has been hitting the snooze and hoping for the best, well, you're doing just fine. May we offer what we can with open hearts, and may we trust that it will be enough. Blessed be.
Good morning, troublemakers. Am I wrong? I don't think so. Are any of you afraid of being troublemakers? It's okay if you are. Yeah, right? There's a risk in causing trouble. I have a story about one of the safer ways I managed to cause trouble. But first, this. There is a love holding me. It was Sunday morning, and I realized I had no clean pants for church, and I'm the minister of that church. This was in Syracuse, New York, and the year was 2018, and it had been rough. Little did I know what would happen later. But with the President of the United States being Donald Trump at the time, this blue sea in Syracuse, New York, surrounded by a whole ocean of red, found themselves being targets at times for their values. There's something called rolling coal, where if somebody was driving a Prius, a truck would pull in front of them with their exhaust pipes that rose above, and they'd roll coal so that the person couldn't see the road and actually put them at risk. Like things like that were more general, all the way down to the more specific of folks being threatened by police or by armed militia. It was a tenuous time, and I suspect it sounds familiar, right? Yeah. And so here I was, pantless, and needing to preach to a congregation in a time of uncertainty about what it meant to be brave, even as they dealt with violence. And I knew a few things to be true. One, that for my more marginalized folks, this was nothing new. It was just suddenly out loud. That they had, and I had, as a trans, non-binary, indigenous human, just as I had and so many others had dealt with violence on the regular, fear of being pulled over by the police, uncertain of what it would mean to get home at night, dealing with all of the challenges of the world. What had been just them had now grown wider, and quite frankly, whiter. And so how do you serve in a community where some of the folks, this is just a Tuesday, and other folks, this is a revelation? How do you minister to the wholeness of all of those communities? So it was on this Sunday morning when I'm asking these large questions, and I'm doing my laundry, and in the room, there's a gentleman in a wheelchair, white gentleman in a wheelchair who's put his stuff in the wash, and there's a Spanish-speaking couple in the corner. And I don't speak Spanish super great. Let's be honest, you probably just heard it. But I understood it well enough to know that she had a loved one in the hospital and she was talking to a doctor, and she was highly anxious and trying to get her clothes to dry so she could leave and go deal with the thing. So she's being loud and her husband's being patient. And a young college student doing his laundry, white seeming. And we're all going about our days, and in walks a person in full camo and a red MAGA hat. And I think, oh, here we go. But I just keep doing my laundry and meditating about what I'm preaching that morning and all those things. And up comes this gentleman to the gentleman in the wheelchair. Now, the gentleman in the wheelchair is now in between the washer door and the washer. And this guy is, I'm picking on my partner here. This guy is like, you know, in this country, we speak English. And he says it loud enough that the couple in the corner can hear it. But the woman's on her phone and not paying attention. And the husband looks over a little anxiously, but then tries to pretend he doesn't exist, which is understandable. But now, the young man in the wheelchair can't get out of the position without trying to counter this guy, and he can't interrupt the dude. He tries, doesn't work. And what would you do? I didn't know what I was going to do, if I should do anything, because the other thing I know is, as a person who is an accomplice, is I can't fix things for the person who's experienced the violence without taking their power away. And I don't want to do that without their permission. So I stand there and I think for a minute, and then I turn my back on them. There is a love holding me. Now, I gotta say, singing There Is a Love in the middle of a laundromat in Syracuse, New York, was not on my bucket list of things to do in a life, particularly to strangers and with no sense of what was gonna happen. But I know I can sing. That's one of the few gifts that I've been given and been able to train up. And it was a song about love, and it would draw his attention. And he did slow down for a minute. He didn't stop, but he did slow down. Here's the thing. Our acts of witness do not have to be huge. And if you are a person for whom disrupting is a scary thing because you've had the privilege to not have to deal with those things, what's that one little thing you can do? I love the work of Leah Lakshmi Peepsna Samaraswarinha, called Care Work. Highly recommend it. She is a black woman, queer, lives with disability, and the book is written about how care work exists for folks who live with disabilities, with disabled folks, and with the folks who care for them. And I think the advice that she gives to folks who may be too exhausted to sing the song in the middle of the laundromat is actually the same as it is for the folks who maybe are afraid to take the action of singing in the laundromat. And it's this: what feels possible right now? You don't have to do it all, but what is the something that you can do to quote Audre Lorde. What is the something that you can do? You don't have to stop fascism today. You're not going to. We're not likely to stop fascism anytime in the next few years. That is a long, big project that requires mass quantities of people. But maybe your one thing that feels possible right now is to become one of those people. Or maybe one of your things that feels possible right now is to not deal with any of it and just survive the day. Whatever that thing is for you, what feels possible right now? In that moment, there wasn't a lot that felt possible. And I want to be really clear, it wasn't sunshine singing in a laundromat, an individual taking action. There was a whole community that surrounded me to make that moment possible. I had been reflecting with other ministers and with my congregation for months and, years by that point, on what it means to say no to this kind of action. We have been thinking about how do we teach this to our children? How do we bolster folks? We have been doing de-escalation trainings at the church and in the community. We have been marching at Juneteenth. We have been doing all of these things so that when this moment came, I was certain something needed to happen. I had been trained into that moment. I had been supported and loved into that action. Does this congregation love you into that kind of action? Yeah? Remember in those moments when you are risking yourself, you are not alone. This whole community is behind you. Everybody online, everybody here, everybody who's on sabbatical or off taking vacation or snowbirding off to the places they snowbird to, everyone who has been a part of your formation is with you in that moment, even if it feels like you're alone. To take a moment and look around the room at the people here. Now, for my neurodivergent folks, and you know who you are, I am one. I live with CPTSD, that's my form, there's autism. I'm not saying look longingly into the eyes of the people near you. I'm saying notice the people around you, look around. This is your community. These are the sacred people who support you in those difficult moments. None of us can do these things alone. And because we're in community, what feels possible right now expands radically. Right? There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love.
Each week, we split our offering between this congregation and an organization that shares our values. For May, our Share of the Plate partner is Desert Star Institute for Family Planning. Their mission is to create equitable access to reproductive and sexual health care while centering Black and Indigenous people of color. They envision a world where people exercise bodily autonomy and are free to decide whether or not to bear children and raise families in safe, sustainable communities free from oppression and violence. For all that you give, we are so grateful. Ushers, thank you for your willing hands in helping us pass the plate.
just realized I had 2 announcements to make. The first is just to thank you all. We didn't really give you any warning that today was a day to mask because Reverend Sunshine has family who are immunocompromised, and we really appreciate you all doing that to be a good host for our guests. So thank you so much. And the second announcement is an appreciation. It's for someone who has a big impact on our worship but is never in front of the cameras. Danny Doyle has been our video and streaming engineer here at the UU Congregation of Phoenix since that position began in 2021. He controls our cameras, he displays our lyrics, he monitors our streaming, he monitors our Zoom meeting. I know. Yeah. Oh, we got him on camera. Hey, Danny. Yeah. Danny is moving with his wife Liz next week to Washington State. So this is his last Sunday working here at UUCP. And I will just tell you, over the last 4 years, Danny has been dedicated and friendly and calm and unpretentious as he helped us figure out what we are doing with video, testing the limits of our equipment, troubleshooting every week everything that goes wrong, helping our team understand what we're doing. So, and Liz has often been in the loft on Sundays as well, helping with Zoom and enjoying the view. Oh, hey, Liz. So thank you both so much. Best wishes in your new home. Our video and streaming engineer this summer will be Peyton Jones. Hey, Peyton. Peyton was in high school when Danny trained him in video and streaming. Peyton now attends college in the Northwest, but he's back in Phoenix for the summer, and we're so happy to have you back in the loft. So.
We recognize that our lives are interconnected, and part of our journey as a community is sharing our significant milestones, joys, and sorrows. You can put a note in the chat on Zoom if you want us to read your joy or sorrow next week. Fill out a card before service at the small table in the back of the sanctuary. Today, I've got one paper one from Kathy Kopek. She says that, I'm in Pennsylvania today at my grandson's graduation from Buckwell University. He has a job. Yay. And then online, we just have a bunch of, we have some appreciations for Danny online. So thank you for that. Alrighty. Okay.
I invite you to join me in the spirit of meditation, contemplation, or prayer according to your own personal spiritual practice. O still small voice within and great wisdom beyond our knowing. We exist in times of uncertainty when things are constantly changing. And we hold to that resilience that together we are stronger than we are alone. And that in those times when we feel most desperate, most disconnected, most alone, we are held in love. The institutions of this country and some of our world are bent on getting us to feel overwhelmed, fearful, and unwilling to engage. We call on that inner strength, interconnected with our ancestors and all who surround us, family, beloved, friends, and communities, to say no to that overwhelm, to say no to that message that we cannot change or stop what is happening, but instead say yes to what is possible, what makes us whole and holy in our imperfection and our brokenness. In this day, we hold those who are living in times of uncertainty due to illness, loss, change, and challenge. And we hold up all of those experiencing times of wonder and joy, hope, and engagement. For never do these things live alone or separate, but often side by side. May we know that we are enough, that we are always enough to do what is possible right now. May we know that we are a blessing unto the world, and may we share that blessing with all those we meet. May we come alive. For in the words of Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, we need those people who come alive. May we be blessed in a time of silence before we conclude this meditation. As we bear witness to the stillness of this space, may we remember it as something that holds us and carries us in this week and the weeks to come. And may all those who are gathered here say that which means the most to them. Blessed be, amen, ashe, so be it.
Here's a song about that still small voice within each of us. Please sing with me. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing in dark and rain, sorrow and pain, still you remain, singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing. Let's do it again. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing, in dark and rain, sorrow and pain, still you remain, singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing. Thank you all.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. So, 4 years-ish prior to being in a laundromat in Syracuse, I found myself moving from Montgomery, Alabama to Florissant, Missouri to serve as the interim minister in Alton, Illinois. And 9 days into living in the St. Louis area, 3.5 miles from my house, Michael Brown was murdered by police. And what I remember about that time was, okay, everything I thought I was doing for the next year, 2 years, has completely changed. That was my selfish thought. My not so selfish thought was concern for the members of my congregation who lived in Ferguson. And then my next thought was, if my congregation doesn't fully support the efforts in Ferguson, what is my role to do? Because one thing I'm sure of is, as a minister, I can encourage my congregation to take action, but if they don't own it themselves, nothing I say matters. So I did the work of encouraging my congregation, but I was like, what can I do in the meantime? What is the thing that feels possible right now? And I want to tell you a story about how a militiaman unintentionally deactivated a situation. So my work with these protests was I would frequently go in on day 3 or 4. Because usually ministers would go on day 1 and 2 for the big, intense parts of the protests, and then they'd need a break. And there was a crew of us who would come in and take the baton and show up on day 3 and 4 after protests start. Does that make sense? The idea being, none of us can run that whole race. We'll just fall over and die. So it was one of those times. It was right after the non-indictment in November of 2015, and I was on West Florissant with my collar and my side with Love Stole and the whole thing, and they had pulled in the bus, which meant we knew the police on this particular night had every intention of arresting as many people as they could. And by this time, the police had identified all ministers present as essentially bad actors who were out there to harm the police. Never mind the black folks who were always going to be targeted, but then there were special groups. They targeted journalists, they targeted ministers, they targeted the key leaders. There were things. So we knew, okay, this is a good chance this is going to amp up. And then the energy shifted, because a white militiaman showed up with some sort of machine gun type thing, like an AK something, and was walking down the street. Now, let's be clear. If any of the black activists had done the same thing, this would not be how this is about to go down, right? This man walked up with his weapon and talked to the police. And after he talked to them, they walked him down the street to try and get him out. And he walked across the street and started talking to the activists. The paddy wagon left because they realized if they started something now, it was going to turn into something else. But what most impressed me was not the police. It wasn't even this militiaman. The thing that I noted in the Ferguson protests, the leaders of the protests were not the ministers, were not the elders even. It was the young adult black folk who lived in Ferguson. And they had plans for things. And what they did was there were about 15 who surrounded him and just started talking to him and asking questions. He couldn't really do anything except be surrounded by these folks. And they just carefully, while they're talking to him, nonchalantly walked him off of the protest line and off of the lot. And then he left. Activism does not have to be big protests or these big, huge, massive actions. What they can be is thoughtful, coordinated effort to think about how do we respond when things come, and what does our presence mean? Around that same time in 2015, Reverend Sean Parker Dennison, who's a minister up in Oregon, one of the co-founders of Trust, which is the Transgender Religious UU Professionals Together organization, He gave a sermon in which he said, "What if Unitarian Universalists were simply known as the people who show up? That we're not the leaders, we're not the ones who know all the answers to things, though I know we do love that sometimes, but we're simply the people who show up and do what is asked." What impressed me about that moment was that everybody in the place on the protester side knew what needed to happen. None of the white folks tried to talk to this guy or interrupt or disrupt. They had learned after a year that their job was simply to exist, not to inject themselves. And if you are a white person in this room who's cisgender and has privilege, honestly, your presence means a lot. Just showing up and nothing more. And those young activists had a whole community of support around them. They were not alone. I had some amazing debates. One of them said, "Well, you can't pray for me." And I said, "I'm not going to try to." And we got into a whole conversation about prayer. That meant a lot to him. And in that day, it helped him heal from some spiritual abuse he experienced. Simply by my just listening. I didn't do anything. It was all him. If you are a person who's experiencing harm from this fascist regime that we're dealing with, do what feels possible right now. Take care of yourself and your family. And whatever it makes sense for your shift, as in your time of service, within these communities that we are blocking and building together, do that. But make sure you have your community as a support, and make sure you're not alone. And if you don't have folks with you, reach out to this community. They got you. Right? Yes. Y'all got each other? Yes. I'm sort of convinced. Let's try that again. Y'all got each other? Yes. There we go. Okay. We can only do this together. And we can only do it with massive amounts of people power and with everybody understanding their role in relationship to that power. If you have power not because you want it, but because your skin tone and your gender identity and all that gives it to you, wield that in a way that does not subtract from the power of the people who are being targeted. Does that make sense? And for the people who are targeted, expect the folks with privilege to behave in a way that does not harm you. Right? So I'm in this laundromat in Syracuse, and I'm thinking through some of this stuff that I just shared with you and thinking about the impact of trauma, the impact of power and authority. And I know that a lot of the folks in the room can't do a lot, but I don't want to take anybody's power away. So I start singing that song. I get through it all the way through once. And he stopped talking by the time I finish the 4 lines. And when he thinks I'm done, he starts going again. And knowing that he got quiet, I felt emboldened. There is a love holding me. You can join me if you want. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. By the end of the second one, he's definitely stopped talking. And he says, and I quote, "I can't handle this shit." And he walks out. I'm really not looking for accolades. Like, it can seem like that, but I'm not. Because I did the bare minimum I could do. Let's be clear. I sang a song at a laundromat. That's all I did. But it was enough for him to disrupt what he was saying and doing, to get him thinking about love, which I'm sure is not something he was accustomed to. But more importantly, the guy in the wheelchair, he kind of nodded at me as he went by, but he was no longer stuck listening to a diatribe on English. The woman who had started to realize something was happening was able to wrap up her laundry and leave before he came back in. Folks were able to go about their lives. Did I fix anything with this guy? No, probably not. All I did was stop the harm in the moment. And that's all I could do. And that's all any of us can do. We can be in control of the spaces we're in. We can call our legislators. We can show up to events. We can pay attention to the things. We can make sure none of our friends go quietly off into the night. That folks are witnessed and know they are not alone. And if we can do that, that's not nothing. We build the resilience, we build the relationships, so that when we can finally put an end to all the crap that's happening, we have built those relationships. And we know we're not alone. And we built the strength to say, not one more person will be disappeared. Not one more person will land in what is essentially a concentration camp. Right? Do that one little thing. What feels possible right now? In his work, The Anatomy of Fascism by Robert Paxton, which if you're looking for a good 101 is good. Also the, oh goodness, the podcast we're listening to. It'll happen. There are a lot of podcasts out there that are helping counter fascism and helping educate people about it. Inform yourself, because it is what is happening right now. There is a playbook, and one of the playbooks is that an emergency needs to be created. Yeah? Oh, the fascism barometer. Thank you. Thank you, love. Minister's wife right here. Thank you. An event can be created that causes stress. My assumption is it will be financial, but whatever it is, then they can declare martial law, and they're already building the groundwork for that with being able to call the National Guard and things. So it is fascism, and it is a playbook, and it is something you can count on and you can follow. It's a little different for the 21st century, but it is all the same basic things. So learn the stuff, talk about it, share it, resist it. Do the one little thing that you can do. Does that make sense? Does that feel possible? That's all we're asking. Do what feels possible. Not everything, the one little thing. Because you can't fix it all in your lifetime. So the gentleman left. I had clean pants. I did not show up to worship without pants on. That was exciting. And I shared this story with my congregation a couple of weeks later, and we started to imagine, like, what's the song in your life? Like, for me, it's singing. For you, it might be art. It might be your ability to make relationships. I love thinking in neurodivergent community, we talk about our superpowers. Like, what's your superpower that you can bring to this? What is that one little thing you can do? And do that. And do it over and over and over again until something changes. Find the song in your heart. So we're going to close with this song one more time. But before we do that, I really do want you to look around the room at this community. And I'll stop pausing when I feel like everybody's kind of actually done that to some degree. Nothing you use love more than a forced exercise. This is your sacred community. These are the people who are blessed by your presence and who you bless. May you know that you're not alone. And may you always find that song in your heart that helps you change the world one little bit at a time. There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all I rest in this love. I want to say something about this song. These are the words of Reverend Dr. Rebecca Ann Parker, who used to be president at Stark Canyon School for the Ministry when I went to seminary there. And each entering class, she would ask us to do this poem, but insert the word of one of our new classmates into the phrase. It's based on Tonglen practice. Anybody Tonglen practitioner here? Tonglen is a Buddhist practice in which you meditate on something that's a challenge for you. And you breathe in the challenge, and you breathe out what you need in its place. But in the prayer, you start with yourself. You always start with yourself. Then you think of one other person who might be going through a similar challenge. And you do that same, breathing in their challenge and breathing out what you hope for them. And then in Tonglen, the rule is you do not pray for all people, because that's a little too generic and broad. You pray for all the people who have that same experience that you're having. And breathe in their challenge and breathe out what you want for them. And then you return to the self. And so this song is actually, there is a love holding me. And then the next round is, there is a love holding you. And third round is, there is a love holding us. And it's based on that Tonglen practice. And then it always comes back, there is a love holding you. So we're going to do that once through. You ready? Please rise as your spirits and bodies allow. If you want to stay seating, you can. No requirements. There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. Keep going without me now. You. Holding you. There's a love holding all that you love. There's a love holding all. You rest in this love. A little faster now with us. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. Now me. So it may be, please be seated.
So after service ends, our coffee hour will be in the Johnson Room just across the patio. And noon services will be listed on the screen. I would like to thank Reverend Sunshine for joining us today. Reverend Sunshine, please close out our service.
Well, before I close out our service, I want to say I love all things coffee, so I will be in the coffee hall. And I also trade in stickers. Here's my guideline with stickers. They're for adults, not meaning adult content. I want to be really clear. Just, I put a lot of money into them, so they're good quality, so I'm not just like handing them out to children. Children can take them, but they're really good ones, all kinds of stuff. So come by, check them out, see if there's some you want. So that's my first thing. For our closing, I invite you to rise as your spirits and bodies allow, and across this aisle, turn and face each other, and also look at the folks online. Hi, everybody online. And you can be looking at each other, too. This is your sacred community by the work which your hearts and minds, spirits and bodies create something new, different, and wonderful. Are you committed to each other to help build the world we dream about? If so, say yes.
Yes.
Are you committed together to build a world in which you all feel loved and held? If so, say yes. Yes. Are you enough to help bring about the great change, the great awakening, the great wonder that will help heal our world? If so, shout with the loudest voice you can, yes. Yes. May it be so. Cause good trouble and comfort in equal measure, and thank you for being with us.